Hello everybody. Today I will talk about information security management. My name is Associate Professor Dr. Izura Udзir from the Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, University Putra, Malaysia. Now, a little bit about myself. I am the Director of the Co-Curriculum and Student Development Center, University Putra, Malaysia. I have been a lecturer at the faculty for 21 years, meaning that it was since 1998, and my expertise is in the area of information security or computer security. I was a graduate from the university itself, but my PhD is from the University of York, United Kingdom. And if you need to know more about my lecture and also my area, you can contact me through this email, and you can also visit my profile on the website. Now, this is some additional information about myself, my research area mostly, or research achievements. My H index 12 in Scopus and 17 in Google Scholar. I have published 3 books, journals, as well as conference papers, and I have supervised over 50 PhD students, supervised and co-supervised these students as well as master students. And I was the head of the information security group, the first head of this group when it was first established in 2008, and I was also the head of department of the computer science in 2013 until 2016. I'm also the member of IEEE Computer Security, Malaysian Society for Cryptography or Cryptology Research, as well as 2 other societies. Now, we know that computer security is crucial. It is very important in almost any technology-driven industry which operates on computer systems, because we have very huge amount of critical information. Every day they are being created, they are being transmitted and archived by computers worldwide, everywhere in the world, every day. And to make sure that the security of this information is a challenge. So with the ever-growing technology, today's computer professionals need a comprehensive understanding of all aspects in the security in computing. Now, why security is sometimes considered difficult? Because, overall, managers are not aware of the value of computing resources, because not all managers are from the IT background or from the security background. We can see that if something happens, the security of an organization is compromised, it will be a damage to the public image. And also the legal definitions are often vague or non-existent. We are not sure, we are not clear what is the definition of the legal if something happened, especially in the cybersecurity area. And the prosecution also can be difficult with the borderless nations that we have now, and there are also many other subtle technical issues. So why do we need security? Why we need to have an approach, a proactive approach in managing information security? For example, these are some of the examples of the 10 biggest security incidents back in 2016, but of course every year it will be increased, and every year there will be new kind of attacks that we can see. But this is just an example. We can see that there are many incidents reported: the content-related, cyber harassment, denial of service attack, fraud, intrusion attempt, and so on. And we can see the green color, for example, intrusion and fraud are 2 of the most highly reported incidents back in 2017. Now, the CIA. What is the CIA? These are the information security principles. When we talk about security, we want to preserve, or we want to achieve these 3 security principles. First, the C, confidentiality. Confidentiality means that the information is only available to authorized users. Integrity. For the I, it means that the information is retained, the intended content and semantics. That means that the information has not been changed or modified without permission. And lastly, A is on the availability. We want to make sure that the information is accessible. It is there when we want it. Yeah, because if the information is not there, the information is not available when people or when the user access that information, then the information is useless. We cannot use the information. So how the importance of this C, I or A may be different depending on the organization. So let me give you a little bit of introduction or overview of the kinds of threats that we may have. First, interruption. We can see from the diagram, the interruption means that the data or the asset or message that has been transmitted from one person to another does not reach the recipient. So that means there is an interruption there. C, the next one is the interception. Interception means that a message or data sent from one person to another is now being leaked, or it can be spied on by a third party. Modification means that a third party modifies the data. And lastly, fabrication means that a data or message is being created to say that it comes from the source, whereas it actually comes from the attacker. So these are 4 types of threats that we generally have here. Information security controls. We may have physical control, we may have technical control, we may have administrative control. Now, when we talk about information security, it doesn't really mean that it is only limited to the IT security or the computer security. The physical security of the organization is also important. The walls, the gates, the doors, the lock, everything is also important. Now, what is the best practice for information security? It is quite impossible to have the maximum security, but what we can have is the optimal security framework, which does not necessarily mean the highest security that we can obtain with the money. For example, we need to balance the business risk of losing out in a highly competitive market against the risk of suffering security exposure and the associated consequences. So it is quite acceptable for companies, for organizations to take risks as long as it is done in the right way and involve the right people. So optimal would mean the most appropriate use of security given the business requirements and the desired risk profile of the organization, because we cannot have everything. We cannot reduce the risk to zero. It is impossible. But we can reduce the risk to an acceptable level based on the organization. So when we talk about information security of an information system, there are 5 areas or 5 components that we need to look into. First is about the people security. The second one is the security of the information system activities, the process, the flows of the data, for example. Third is about the technology security, and then data security, and the last one is on the network security. So all these 5 components need to be need to be considered when we talk about the security of information system. It's not only on the activities itself. It's not only on the network only. It's not only on the data, but everything. Including the people. Okay. Now, when we talk about information security management, we also need to consider the change or change management or control management, because change will happen every day. Change in a secure environment can introduce loopholes, from one changes to another changes. From time to time, the organization may be changing in terms of the structure, in terms of the leader of the organization, the leadership itself, or the people inside the organization also may change. Or maybe in the physical structure of the organization, they may build new wings of the building, for example. So all these changes need to be managed properly so that it will not introduce loopholes or overlaps or missing objects, which can lead to vulnerabilities in the security mechanism or the security profile of that organization. So the only way to maintain security in the face of change is to systematically manage the change. This would usually involve, we need to have extensive planning, testing, logging, auditing, and monitoring of the activities related to the security controls and mechanisms. The records of the changes also will be used to identify the agents of change, whether those agents are objects, subjects, programs, communication pathways, or even the network itself. So we need to look at every one of these, look at the record of these changes, and check whether they introduce new loopholes or vulnerabilities or weaknesses in the system. The goal of change management is to make sure that any changes does not lead to reduced or compromised security, meaning that whenever we have a change, it doesn't make the system or the organization weaker in terms of security. So it is also responsible to make it possible to roll back any changes to the previous secure state. So when we talk about change management process, we can see that first, there is a request for change. Then we look at the impact analysis. We need to analyze what is the impact of this change, especially to the security or the information security management. Then we need to approve or deny whether we want to have that change or not, and then implement the change. And after that, we still need to review and do some reporting for this change to make sure that everything is in order. So the change control process of configuration or the change management, we have several goals for this or several requirements. First, we need to implement the changes in a monitored and orderly manner. So changes are always controlled. We need to have also the formalized testing process to verify that a change produces expected result. The change will produce what we expect. And one of the requirement is also that all changes can be reversed, meaning that when you do some change, if something happened, it doesn't work as it should be, we can reverse back to the old version. That is what we mean by this point. Users are informed of changes before they occur so that we can prevent loss of productivity. The effects of the changes are systematically analyzed, and the negative impact of the changes on capabilities, the functionalities, the performance is minimized. So these are some of the requirements when we do change management. For example, one example of the change management process is to have a parallel run. What does it mean? It means that we have the old system, it is running, but if we want to produce or we want to change to a new system, it is also running, but both systems need to run in parallel, so that because we don't know, we cannot make sure that the new system will run or will give the expected result as the old one. So we need to run properly. If something happened in the new system, we can easily reverse to the second, to the old one, for example. So this is normally the practice in many organizations. So each major or significant user process is performed on each system simultaneously, together, at the same time, to make sure that the new system supports all the required business functionality, and the old system same like the old system or maybe more. Yeah? So traditional management skills. Now, we talk about the skills. Traditionally, when we talk about management theory, they emphasized the importance of computer literacy and also information literacy in management. So computer literacy would mean that the ability to use the computers and perform many tasks. Information literacy would mean the ability to know when there is a need for information, to be able to identify, locate, and evaluate and effectively use that information for the issues or problem at hand. Now, we need to have security literacy. Security literacy is the transitional learning activity between security awareness and security training. So, a manager who is security literate is familiar with generic security concepts such as the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the common information assurance terms, and the associated learning modules. So, in terms of global computing, even managers who are computer literate and information literate cannot be effective managers if they are not security literate. So security literacy is very important nowadays. The managerial skills. Yeah, when we talk about managerial skills, there are three types of skills: technical skills, human skills, and creativity skills. The technical skills is the ability to handle the technical side of the task. The human skills is the power to communicate effectively with your colleagues or with your employees. And the creativity skills is how you can formulate innovative ideas and concepts. So all these three skills are very important for a manager. You don't know, not only you need to know the technical part, you also need to know the human skill, and also you need to have the creativity skills. Yeah? So human resources security, when we talk about people, yeah, every organization will have human or people working in the organization. So your own personnel, the people in the organization or contract personnel can also be the source of insecurity, the insider attack. You know, for example, maybe they're not attacking, but their ignorance, what they don't know about security may affect the organization. Yeah? So we can see that how human security, human resources securities, we need to have the procedures for new employees joining the organization. When we hire new employees or when we fire employees, you terminate employees, we need to have proper procedures for this. For example, we need to collect their keys and entry badges, we need to delete their user accounts, for example, and we can also have enforced holiday periods, yeah, for certain employees. Yeah, for example, in a certain period of time or in 1 year, we may force some employees to go to holiday so that we can check whether they are hiding something or maybe they are doing some fraud, for example. And when we hire new employees, we need to have background checks on these new employees. In some sectors, this may be required by the law, but there may also be some privacy law that restrict what information that the employer can seek about these employees. The security awareness is also important among the employees. Yeah? All employees, from the top management to the, for example, to the janitor, for example, they need to be aware of the security. To be effective, security policies must be supported by the top management. Yeah? Probably we may have a security charter, which is a document explaining all the general rules. But we should not treat users as the enemy, because the users have to understand that they protect their own assets. Those security awareness programs should be part of the general security strategy in an organization. Not every member in an organization has to be a security expert. but all members should know that why security is important for themselves as well as for the organization, what is expected of each member, and they should also know which good practices they should follow. So all this has to be communicated, has to be explained to the employees, all employees at every level in the organization. Now, another aspect of information security management is security governance. So, this is the organizational processes and relationships for managing the risk. We have the policies, the procedures, standards, guidelines, baselines, and also this would be dependent on the organizational structures, the roles and responsibilities of all this. So we can see from the diagram here, to establish stable security governance that addresses the threats to an organization's and vulnerability, we need to have a proper security governance whereby we develop the strategy, we manage the commitment, and then the roles and responsibilities also should be properly or clearly outlined. Reporting and communication channels also, and also it would identify legal issues, establish, maintain the security policies, develop the procedures and guidelines to support the policies, and also develop a business case. So these are parts of the security governance that is also important in information security management. So when we talk about security governance, it should not be confused with IT management. Management means making decisions to mitigate risk, to reduce or to prevent risk, whereas governance would mean determines who is authorized to make that decision. The management would ensure that the controls are implemented to mitigate the risk, whereas the governance would specify that the accountability framework and provides oversight to ensure that risks are adequately mitigated. The management recommends the security strategies. The governance would ensure that the security strategies are aligned with the business objectives and consistent with the regulations. So, governance would mean doing the right thing, whereas management means doing things right. So we can see the difference between these two. Policies are statements of management intentions and goals. The senior management should support and approve the security policy of that organization to make sure that it will be a success. So the general high-level objectives of these security policies is the responsibility of the top management. When we talk about security management, we have to do risk management. It is an ongoing process of identifying information security risk and how to implement plans to address them. Normally, often there are a number of assets potentially at risk exceeds the resources available to manage them, meaning that we may have many assets at risk, but compared to the resources to manage them, there are not many resources to manage them. That is why we need to perform risk management. This is very important to perform the risk management so that we can mitigate the risk in an efficient and cost-effective manner. The ongoing risk management process that assigns the relative, we can assign the priorities, which risk is higher, which risk is lower, so that we can give priority to the plans and implementation. Also, considering or taking into account the available budget that the organization have. So depending upon the governance model that have been selected, the governance group may be able to make some decisions, priority decisions, or may make recommendations to even to the higher or the top management level. Previously, we have talked about the importance of the people or the personnel in an organization as part of the component in an information security system in an organization. Therefore, as people is the important aspect also in an information security management, it is also important to have a good security culture in the organization. So a strong security culture is both in the mindset and also in the mode of operation in that organization. We need to integrate this security culture into the day-to-day thinking and decision making, and therefore it can make a very strong security for that organization. If we don't have a security culture, then it may lead to security incidents, for example, because everybody is working in silos and they're not talking to each other. They don't understand that the consequence of their action may affect the other departments, or also may affect the security of the organization. So rather than being helpful and doing what they can do to improve the security, these people normally would do what is in their own best interest, sometimes even sabotage each other or the overall business. So this is when we don't have a good security culture in the organization. How do we foster security culture? We can minimize the disconnect, the silos, the self-interest related to the information security by creating a security training program that is periodic and consistent. We need to encourage and support the security training among the IT and security staff members, as well as software developers and the quality assurance professionals. Reward system also can be used as a great motivator for the employees in the organization. So the key is that everybody must be on board, from the top management to the even the lowest level at the organization. And of course, everything starts at the top. It must be top down. The executive management must be interested in fostering a positive security culture. However, this layer is often not there. It's often forgotten. People are quick to blame the executives for their lack of support. People will always say, no, the executive, the top management doesn't support this. But in many cases, accountability and responsibility are just as much in the hands of the IT and security staff. So whatever you do, we need to show it, because actions speak louder than your words. Do what's right and get started now. Okay. So the information security culture, how can we build and improve on it? Information security culture is actually like an iceberg principle. What you see above the surface of the water is only in the form of the people's behavior and decision. This is just the tip. But below the water, we can see that there is the priorities, the values, the beliefs, and so on that drive this behavior. So every security decision, from what a security policy requires to whether or not they ignore the policy or they do not like the policy, everything has a reason. Okay. So if we really want to appreciate our information security culture, it would be good to go to other organizations. See what other people or other organizations do. Go elsewhere, like another company, and look at them. Feel how the culture, the security culture of that organization. Besides, how can you transform a company's information security culture? It's hard to measure what people think, what people believe, but that's where the cultural transformation happens. Fortunately, there is a correlation between culture and behavior. For example, let's look at one organization that maybe they didn't neglect, they don't care about the IT security. So the Chief Information Security Officer struggles to get a bigger budget and more resources. He keeps going to the top management to ask for more budget because he wants to get a new or more effective security mechanisms, security solutions for the company. He also asked for more staff because he's not short-staffed. But the culture of resistance pushes back on every new policy and initiative. The people will flout security standards. For example, even though we have the policy saying that every computer must have a password, but not everybody will use the password because they feel that, you know, it's difficult. It takes time for me to access my computer. To open my computer, I need to put in password. Well, I'm not that an important person. I may not have a good very confidential data, so maybe I don't need a password. So these are some of the things. But suddenly there is a public major breach happen, and everybody is in chaos. Suddenly reporters, regulators are asking questions, the customers are angry, the company is forced to make some to pay back, for example, for their customers and so on, and this is a nightmare. But because of this, people now start to appreciate that security management is very important. So because of that, now everybody is taking security seriously. Budgets are given, you get new staff, and previously people do not care about the password. Now everybody is more more on the alert. So with that, I thank you for your attention.